Welcome everyone, welcome to Training Tuesdays. One word in the chat to describe how you're feeling right this minute. Just one word in the chat. Hey Facebook, how are we? Rob Hawkes Chris Blackburn for Training Tuesdays. One word in the Facebook chat to say how you're feeling. Just one word. Don't overthink it. First word that pops into your head.
Excited.
Excited. So for those of you that are in Zoom, just one word that summarizes how you're feeling right now. And we'll get cracking.
Introduce yourself, mate.
So yes, I'm Rob Hawkes. I am the head of coaching here at ISR Training. Who are you?
My name's Chris Blackburn. I'm the head of sales here at ISR Training. So
excellent.
Another session of Training Tuesday today. What are we covering, Rob?
We are covering likability. So the ability about being liked. And we've got a couple of greats in there, James and Sean. A couple of greats. All right. So Facebook, if you're watching and you're there and you have fingers, type. Or you could use type to text. Hey Siri, I'm feeling amazing. Pumped, Nathan, great stuff. So as you're joining, if you want to put a little word in there to see how you're feeling, that'd be great. So likability, what is it? Chris, what does it mean to you? What does likability mean? Go for it.
Hopefully we can be likable today. Fingers crossed.
I
think likability for myself is everything in sales. I think Tracy's inspired. Love it. That's awesome.
That's 2 words, Tracy. That's a red flag. Sorry.
Yeah, likability for us is, you know, if people like you, they'll listen to you. But until they trust you, that's when they'll do business, right? So I think everything for likability is about building trust. We know that takes time. It's built on common ground. So today we're going to go into a lot of different areas on how to build up, you know, likability from a communication perspective as well. But for me, it'll just overpin the word trust. I think trust is everything. If you trust somebody, then more than likely you're going to like them. So,
yeah.
So I'd probably say that. How about yourself?
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. It was, we have a sign up. If you ever come through Surface Paradise, the Gateway building, and you want to come and have a look at the office and say hello, please feel free. We have a sign up which basically says exactly what Chris said. If people like you, they'll listen. And if they trust you, they'll do business. So before trust can be built, you've got to like the individual. We had a whip round in our team meeting this morning, as we always do. And we asked this question and we said, what does likability mean to you, or what does it invoke? What sort of feelings does it promote?
Went off on tangents, right?
Yeah. Well, relative to what we're talking about. No, but the biggest thing, I noted down 3 words that people said. The first thing was relate. The word relate came up. So a lot of people were talking about, oh, if I can relate to the person, I'd like them. The second was listening. So, if they listen to me, then I feel like I'm more likely to like them. And then the other thing was rapport. So I suppose the 3 key elements to likability, according to our team, was listening, was relatability or relating, and then rapport. So they would be the 3 key areas in which I think we can talk to. But the second part of that phrase, the saying that we've got up there, about doing business, what is doing business? So it's not always transacting. I think sometimes people get caught up in, as we know, we're trying to change the perception of sales. Sales isn't just closing or transacting a deal. So the business part could be book an appointment. It could be, you know, asking a colleague of yours to do something that you want. Yeah, like asking an administration staff to send an invoice or to send a calendar invitation. If they don't like me, then they will either not do it or they won't do it as efficiently as I want them to. Yeah. So likability, being liked, is actually far more than just leading to trust to sale. I think it's leading to trust so that, you know, you like the person you work with.
So what you're saying there, I guess, is looking to build a relationship, not just
absolutely
looking to make a sale or make a quick win. It's about building a relationship with whoever that individual would be.
Yeah, exactly. So what are our 3 verticals that we work with? The 300% rule of value. What do we work with?
The same thing. Everybody purchases anything off. Firstly is the individual. You buy into the person. You sell yourself. Then you sell the company, the values, the vision, everything that you live and breathe for, and then the actual product in itself. So I was actually doing a coaching session on that today. That if somebody buys into you as the individual, and the features and the benefits of who you are and what you stand for, then the company and the vision, the mission, the values that you stand for as well, they're going to ask what product you deliver, right? They're going to want to know more about what you do. You know, it's like when you're out networking, you ask a lot of questions to somebody, take or give advice, right? You're able to provide that information, and then, you know, more than, you know, likely they're going to want to know what you do too.
Yeah. And that understanding, I suppose, is, you know, but people buy people. So you buy into the person and the individual. One of the comments that was made this morning was, okay, well, what if I sell online, or what if I'm only communicating digitally,
or with one person?
Yeah, it's still relative. Like, you still got to like, you know, but then the company and the person kind of merge together. So likability doesn't necessarily just mean the person themselves. You could like a company. You could like what they stand for. Like, we have vision, mission, and values here at ISR, and it's important that, you know, to have integrity at all times. It's, you know, that's range true. So people could like what we stand for. So if you don't have already, create your vision, mission, values based around yourself. You know, it's
put that into your features and your benefits.
Yeah. So it goes back to what we spoke about last week. For those of you who aren't aware, we're doing sort of an 8-week series around the tools of influence.
Likeability being one.
Likeability being one, yeah. Third-party stories, and you know, that's part of social verification. But there's heaps more we can cover. But consistency is one of those. So I always forget to look at Facebook. Hello, Facebook.
But I think on that as well, Rob. Sorry to interrupt there. I think likeability is not, in my opinion, bending over backwards for a customer and kind of been at a beck and call. I think likeability is being aware of what does and doesn't make people tick, if that kind of makes sense. Is there any context you could give on do's and don'ts when it comes to this sort of area? Yeah,
I suppose, well, that being at someone's beck and call, though, can be annoying. Like, if you're always like, I don't know, I don't like that. But it also comes down to personal preference. And I think that's, you know, I guess just relating it to a sales perspective. So, like, what we've asked for me, this is just my opinion as well. This isn't gospel, but for me, like, to be likable, to build that rapport, I always flip it on its head. Think, what would break that? What don't I like?
So how to break the mold, essentially.
Yeah, but also, like, what breaks rapport. So for me, some do's and don'ts around trying to be likable. Never over talking. It's one of my biggest things that I've had to, you know, to overcome. And if my wife's watching, I'm sure she'll be like, "Well, you still do it." Yeah, I do. But never over talking somebody, even if, like, I'm really excited about what it is that you want to say, because it's just rude. And I think, like, so likability, manners, I think that's important. Cutting people off, not actually letting them finish their sentence.
Does that go hand in hand? Even though I've cut you off a little bit there, does that go hand in hand with the over talking and cutting off?
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the flip to that, if you don't mind me asking, if that's something you don't do, how can you still engage with a client and let them know that you're still listening and talking without talking? As crazy as what that sounds.
Oh, you mean like active listening? Okay.
So how would you mean by that?
So active listening. Well, I guess the concept behind that would be that if I'm engaged in a conversation and I genuinely feel like you care, you just did it then. You just did it then. I coughed, but Chris did it. And it sounds silly, but active listening is part of it being engaged in the conversation. What we need to do when not over talking is allow the other person to receive some of that information. Like, if I go to you and say, you know, our boot camp, it's 2 days worth of information and you get this, and this. And I don't let you at least nod like you're doing, or bring that information over. Yeah. That's annoying. Like, you don't like people who, two ears and one mouth. Absolutely. So, you know, we got to listen twice as much as we talk. I think something that we have to really avoid in terms of being likable, in terms of rapport building, is to never assume. Don't make assumptions. We talk about it when people are, you know, with anything, like, not assuming that my favorite thing of what we do is their favorite thing.
Makes sense.
You know, like I always talk about, I came through ISR on a boot camp, so that was one of my favorite things to sell, was talking about the boot camp. But actually, what if somebody didn't like that kind of environment?
Online or
yeah.
whatever.
I'm just assuming.
That's
so
the way.
so that can be opposite of being likable. You know, that could be like, well, I don't like when someone tells me what they want, you know. Another really good, we love our acronyms here, ISR, our name is one, Swish is one, is TOGA, TOGA, but it's basically about knowing when to give or take advice, or take or give advice is the acronym, or GOTA. I don't know if GOTA works the same as TOGA, it doesn't sound as good, but sometimes people have a tendency, and I mean me sometimes, where I like to give my opinion when really I haven't earned the right to do it. That is a surefire way to do the opposite of being likable. Like if you're a Rotherham fan, right? I know nothing.
Nobody will know who that is.
Rotherham is a really incredibly successful football team in England.
Or not.
But let's say that you're a Rotherham diehard fan, and I've never been to the city. I have no understanding of the team, like anything about it. And I start giving my opinion on why I think that you're not doing very well in your league. Like, from your perspective, you could be like, well, hold on a minute. Like, why are you giving me advice around this? Like, so knowing when to do it, like, you know, in terms of from a interjecting conversationally, that's a surefire way to not be the most likable person in the room.
For sure.
Yeah, if I'm always giving you my opinion on what I think is best for you,
you're not going to take it.
Exactly. So there's sometimes where there are times where it's important to ask for advice, ask others what they think. And that's actually a really likable trait. Like if I say, well, what's your opinion on the club? How are they doing? And you tell me, you'd walk away from that conversation going, yeah, he's a pretty stand-up bloke, when all I did was ask you a question.
For sure.
And that's probably one of your favourite do's, I suppose, in terms of likability, right? You spoke about it earlier.
Yeah, kind of leading into the discovery phase of the sales process is really where we ask effective and efficient questioning, right? To really understand what the buying behaviour is of a client, what they're looking for, what they're looking to achieve as well. So I think not having an assumption on what they, in your instance, what they should look at, but really asking the right questions to understand, well, is that their goal? Is that their challenges? Is that what they're looking to achieve? So for me, being likable is asking, you know, highly effective questions to really understand, you know, the client, what they're doing, their day-to-day, building rapport in obviously the ways that we do as well. So, and
not cutting off and over talking.
Just like that, prime example by Rob. There we go.
So, but genuinely listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just been, I think the word there is genuine, right? You know, asking the question to really understand, you know, the reason why you're on that interaction is powerful.
Just putting it out there, are there any people out there, whether they're watching on Zoom or Facebook, that feel that they're, and this is, you know, really you can put yourself out there. Do you feel like you're not likable, or do you know anyone that you don't like? You know, is there anyone that, you don't have to say who it is, but are there people out there that you don't like? You know, stick it in the chat.
Not their names, but maybe what they do.
No, we're not. Yeah,
maybe
we're not
what they do.
them.
Like, what's the things that, I guess, make somebody not likable for you? Like, what was something where you've been into a setting before where you may have had an idea that you're looking to transact or purchase something, and you know, somebody's not likable, that means you've walked away? Anything in the chat, or any questions about how we can relate it back to your day-to-day as well? Bloody hell.
Absolutely. There are people that are, because I think, like, think about the traits in which that you didn't like them. And know it alls is one that we've just had from Tracy. Hey, Tracy. So if we think about it from a retail setting, if you think about it over the phone, someone who already has an answer to the question, that's annoying. Yeah, right. That's not likable. Even if they have the one thing that you really need, then that's really
lying to people. Yeah. Maybe on just adding on to your don'ts as well, of cutting people off. A rule of thumb I was shown probably 10, 13 years ago, or whatever it was a practical way of a 1, 2, 3 talk. So if you're in a conversation with somebody and you ask them a question, of course, do active listening and all the way through. But once they've finished, allow a 1, 2, 3 before then you continue with where you are, and allow that pause within the conversation.
You
if
mean
that
like
kind
seconds?
of makes sense. Yeah, so 2 seconds. So
Right.
I'd go 1, 2 in my brain. On number 3 is when I would talk.
Right. Okay. So it's like, and then you talk.
Exactly.
So you actually have a little bit of a gap.
So just allow that pause, just in case you may miss a nugget of gold, right? If you cut somebody off halfway through because something's entered your mind and you just want to interject and say it there and then, the customer could have just explained something that was so crucial to the whole conversation, but because you stopped it, you don't. Do you know, if you're in a conversation with somebody and they're stopping you every third word,
Yeah.
you just go, do you know what? You continue.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for me personally. Some people may want to, you know, again, disprofiling and things like that. Some people may want the fast pace, but again, personality types are going to be important. So I prefer the, you know, steady sort of communication.
And we've had a few more stubborn people drive me mad. So people that just won't budge, not a likable trait. Unwilling people. James, you want to unpack what you mean? Like what you mean by that? Just as a Neville know-it-alls. We've got Scott has said, talking, shouting rather than listening and having a conversation. Not a likable trait at all. And that's kind of where we mean like over talking. No, let me finish. It's like, whoa, like not a likable trait. You mentioned something there, excuse me, about Chris mentioned DISC. We're not going to go too much into it, but for those of you who aren't aware, DISC is like a behavioral profiling tool used across the world. Basically, it breaks down 4 traits of individuals. I won't go into them now, but basically it's about understanding that certain people have a type of behavior, or they like a certain way of doing things. So some people are a little bit more dominant. They like to have solid information at hand. Some people like to be, you know, task orientated. I'm not going to go into it, but in detail, but be mindful that sometimes it is someone's behavioral style that perhaps may come across in a way, but they don't mean to do it. We could perhaps do a session on. So just be mindful that, you know, sometimes it might not be that they don't like you or they might not like something about you. It might just be the way that they are.
For sure.
Some people are far more direct than other people. So just be mindful of that. James has come back and said, not willing to learn new things. Yeah, not a likable trait at all. People that I already know it. There's people out there that, you know, they've got a problem and you come with a solution. They've already tried it and it doesn't work. Yeah. It's like, well, I went to the outskirts of, middle of nowhere in Peru and I've come back with this. I've already tried it. It doesn't work. So that's not very likable. And what else we got? Having a conversation. Yeah, I appreciate that. So we've kind of covered the don'ts. What about what you could do to become? We've spoken about active listening. What other things do you like what would you say would leave you with an impression to go, do you know what, I like that person? So we've had asking insightful questions, we've had active listening, understanding their behavioral style. Is there anything else that you think that might, you know, help people who've just struggled to, you know, appear or come across as likable? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think for me is making the winning first impression. I know we focus on, you know, the first 4 or 5 seconds, and absolutely from a sales psychology perspective, it is that over the phone and face to face. But having the first few minutes with somebody, you can kind of get a grasp of their personality as well. And I think somebody that makes a winning first impression just makes me want to know more. So I think having an effective, you know, first impression when you meet somebody, that's very, very powerful.
What about like limp handshakes? You know, like when people are like off your hand like that, hello.
But what if that's their personality type?
Well, I don't know. Sort your handshake out. No, but like, what about humor? What about humor? See, that was I did it on purpose. But what about humor?
Humor, it's the strongest likable trait, right? I think.
For you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If somebody's humor within context, but again, you've got to understand the person to know what humor they relate to. I mean, off topic,
Nathan hates limp handshakes as well.
As an example with that, around will you explain again, sorry?
Humor.
So around the humor is understanding what type of humor that somebody is into as well. You know, did the session where we played the comedies, and Lauren, unfortunately, who heads up our marketing, wasn't the keenest, let's say, on that as well. So we tried to deliver some humour, and that didn't work for Lauren. So,
but also maybe like, and I'm sure everybody's had this, is that some people at the very back end of a deal could lose it based on an inappropriate joke.
Absolutely.
Like I've had examples where I've actually, like, I wouldn't say clashed with someone, but I've been more hesitant to move forwards with using somebody based on a inappropriate comment. Well, for example, was that before we came to Australia, my wife and I did a round the world trip, and we were looking at different travel agents to use. And there was one really great guy. He was really funny, but there was another person I spoke to over the phone who he made an assumption and a joke around a place that we were going to, which I didn't actually agree with. I thought it was a little bit, and it was a really flippant. I'm not going to say what he said, but like, it was just such a really flippant comment, but it questioned everything that he'd said. Like so
this heard. Was on the end of the
conversation. Yeah, this was at the end. Yeah, so I really liked the bloke, and at the end he said something. I was like, oh, maybe I've misjudged you. Like, so being careful with humour and your, like what you do, because again, people buy people. So he had a great opportunity, and then right at the end, he said something off the cuff, and it made me think, I don't really like that. I don't like you now because of that. Yeah. And he didn't get the sale, and we did our travel with someone else. So I suppose humour in a bottled context, humility, and also making sure you know who you're talking 100%. To. Like, if you've got those I like humorous waiters. I like someone who can make a joke, and sort of make So, but I don't want too much. It's not like a comedy show.
Maybe popping in the chat as well. So we've gone through things like, hate, arrogance and stuff. Let's finish this session on a positive. What's the likable traits? What's the one thing that, if me and Rob may have not covered in depth at the moment, what's the things that make you like somebody? I'd love to see what you see as a likable trait. Go the extra mile, going above and beyond.
How does that make you like someone?
How do you mean?
So you're at a restaurant, you're with Ellis. So going the extra. So how would that make you like the waiter, for example?
In regards with going the extra mile.
What could they do for you?
Give me an extra drink. That would be ideal.
Yeah. Making you feel special.
Yeah, making you feel more welcome. Just makes you want to return. I think that the more that they don't have to go above and beyond, but I think setting the expectation, even if you go into a restaurant or to a bar or anything, for me, when somebody sets the expectation, I'll be back in 10 minutes and I'll take your order.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. They come back in 10 minutes. I'm like, I like that person. And again, it goes back to the start. You trust what they say.
Yeah.
And they follow up on what they do.
Yeah. And that goes back to consistency. So he said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And you're like, hey, he was there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of, like I say, a little bit of humility. I think somebody put in there, humble.
Firm handshake.
I like that in a trait. We don't have the time to go through it, but a lot of people know there's 6 stages of building rapport professionally, 4 personally. If someone can find a little bit of common ground with me, and they reference that throughout the evening, then or in conversation, I quite like that.
Yeah.
I like that they've taken especially if someone notices, like, if I've got a bag and I've got a badge on it, or just being observant.
Makes sense.
That for me would be different. What else have we got? Honesty, big likable trait. Eye contact,
believable, empathetic, genuine.
Yeah. They're making you feel at ease. Yeah, there's just sometimes people around you that you're like, I just feel safe around you, which I guess comes back to trust. Like, there are just some people that you feel like, that they get me, they understand me, and I think that's good.
I think timing as well is another thing, right? To be likable, just allowing time to run its course, and not try and be the likable person in the first 5 seconds. I mean, just be genuine and be yourself, and from there, I think over time you become more likable, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, I think in the team meeting this morning, there's been occasions where you may have made an assumption on somebody, but later on down the track they've warmed up to you, and
I think like not judging anyone, you know, like that's a likable trait in me, I suppose, that someone say, oh, well, you know, Rob never judges, but we all do that, but it's a certain degree. But I think not judging someone else, that's why it's hard when we say about that first impression, because somebody might be really nervous, but they could be really likable, but they're just
time,
yeah, it does, yeah. So time and trust,
and that can come onboarding of new staff too. Would you say, from a business perspective, that can take time to build?
Yeah. Like you might be like, oh, that they might be really nervous. They might be really quiet. Oh, I don't like that person, but someone else is quiet. Like, I don't like people who are quiet. Someone else might really like that trait in them. So I suppose it does come down to personal preference. And what else we've got in there? So we've got Manny said you're a legend. That's really, really kind. And are there a video of the 6 stages of rapport for those of you who are in the academy? Yes, just head under the building rapport header, and you'll be able to find the 6 stages of building rapport inside of there.
In each individual piece.
Being transparent and sharing personal things to a degree to build trust. One thing I haven't really covered, and it's actually a little insight into next week's, it's one of my all-time favourite tools.
He has a nickname for this.
Do I?
Everybody else knows it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But my it's reciprocity. Reciprocity-based questions as well.
Rob.
Reciprocity Rob, B&I Bob. I've got a few nicknames. But being able to answer the question that you're about to answer is one of the best ways to be likable. To share a little bit about yourself. You know, I've got 2 kids. How many do you have? Yeah. It's that social obligation that would suggest that, but it's also I'm showing my genuine self.
Exactly.
Right? So
being open.
Yeah, being open. Yeah. So yeah, a little bit about sharing where you don't. Now there's a line there of how much you share. You know, like of how much personal insight you give too early,
for sure,
too soon. Some people don't like that. They don't feel like they want to see an insight into that. So I guess from a sales perspective, building relationship and likability, you've got to have that fine line between we're not best mates here. Yeah. We are clients and you know, or colleagues.
Depending on the rapport you've built.
Yeah.
I think it really depends. Like Mandy, who's in here as well, we probably 45 minutes to an hour into our conversation worked out that both of our partners are named the same. So that was our rapport. But if I'd have started the communication like that, that'd have been just a little bit weird maybe. So I think it took time in order to build that sort of questioning, and then we were able to connect.
But that's really important though, that can you get that information early first, because there's nothing more unlikable, and I think we covered it earlier, where somebody already knows everything. There's also like they've already experienced everything that you've done. I've been there.
But if you pre-framed it, then you've kind of covered your back on that.
So just be mindful of that, about being able to,
not reactive.
Yeah, just sharing a little bit first, so that it's not like, well, I'm from, I visited Auckland. Oh, no way, so did I live there. Yeah, all right, yeah, no, yeah, well,
everything.
Yeah, it's like, and that's not likable, because that comes across as the opposite of what a likable person can be. So, guys, we're 28 minutes into this with 2 minutes to go. So, if you felt that we haven't been able to, there haven't actually been any questions. So if there are any questions, we don't have time today. But remember, next week we'll be here every week, 4:30 until 5 Queensland time to answer questions. If there are any questions, they can just ask later, I suppose.
Ask you, LinkedIn, admin@isrtraining.com.au, put us in Google, call the number. If you've got a question, there's a way to find us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of minutes to go, a couple of things for people to be aware of. Just a quick one, on the 21st of May, for those of you who maybe haven't seen, we've got the Swish Summit. That's a 8-hour day at the Mercure in Brisbane. For the first time ever, we've got all 5 of ISR board members, the 2 directors, Jack Corbett, Ryan Tuckwood, plus...
we're very fortunate to get all 3 together. So we've got Mr. Steve Baxter, Dr. Glenn Richards, and Andrew Banks from Shark Tank, all on the same event. So we are pumped and excited.
Yeah. So Thursday, the 21st of May, early bird tickets are available at the moment. I believe they're at $67. Yeah. So please feel free to grab those. Obviously limited number. I'm not sure how many we're allocating to that. So that's the Swish Summit.
On the 21st of May.
So if you like us or if you like them,
Likeability.
feel free to go along to that. So yeah, I'm excited for that. That's gonna be awesome.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Beautiful.
So that's pretty much it. So next week will be reciprocity. So like I said, my favorite tool. I could talk about it for hours, but I'll make sure that it's half an hour. So yeah, really understanding that kind of givers gain philosophy that, you know, I'll help you out if you help me, that social expectation around that. But that's it, guys. We're finished. Chris, always a pleasure, mate.
Very enjoyable. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Facebook, Zoom, all the people that I'm jumping on. Pleasure to see you as always. See you next week. Any questions, please contact us, and have an awesome end to your week.
Have a great week, guys. Take care. Bye now.